What do you get when you mix Event Horizon with Dark Souls? You get Hellpoint. Released in 2020 by Cradle Games, it's a sci-fi Souls-like. I can't remember buying it, but in my never-ending battle to clear the backlog, I figured it was time to give it a shot. So what is Hellpoint about? The game takes place on a derelict spaceship called Idrid Novo. It orbits a near black hole so it can use its energy, or something like that. But obviously things go very wrong. You awaken a long time later as The Spawn, no, not the one with the cape, created by the author, to find out what happened on the station. This is the basic setup for the game. I wish I could go further into the story, but honestly, I barely understood what was going on. Like Dark Souls, it's told through notes, item descriptions, and vague NPC conversations. Or you can ignore it entirely and just start hacking your way through the enemies. What I did understand, I liked. It's dark, it leans to cosmic horrors, godhood, and scientific ambition. But I was more focused on the other aspects of the game, like the world and the atmosphere, so how's that? The setting is easily the best part of the game. Idrid Novo is unsettling to explore, full of environmental storytelling, blood smear messages, bodies everywhere, broken barriers showing signs of a struggle. Something horrible happened here, and it makes you feel unsafe exploring. The architecture feels hostile, dark halls, abandoned corridors, deadly drops, creating a strong sense of isolation. Being an indie game actually helps with this. AAA games often fill rooms with details and non-interactable objects for realism. But here the rooms are emptier, which amplifies the loneliness and tension. In a Souls-like, a barren room usually means a trap, so you're always on edge. The station is massive, a whole city but with almost no people. It's cold, clinical, built for purpose, not comfort. No trees, no wildlife, just machines. Then there's the black hole. If there's a window you'll see it, huge, ominous, always watching. It bathes the station in creepy red light and ties it into the gameplay. There's a clock in the top left corner. As time passes, enemy placement and strength shift. At 3 or 9 o'clock, the Hell Hour begins. The red light then deepens, enemies become more dangerous, and special events or bosses can appear. Even safe areas can suddenly throw tougher enemies at you. It makes the station feel alive, and like it wants you dead. The sound design enhanced the horror perfectly. For the most part, the game is almost silent, just enemy footsteps or distant machinery. When the music does play, it's subtle and menacing, often working subconsciously. Boss fights where it goes loud, with creepy choirs and mechanical pounding instruments that ramp up the tension. Lighting is used brilliantly. Some areas are pitch black except for a single light source. I had to turn up the game's gamma so the footage was visible. Red lighting makes areas feel unwelcoming. White light is often used to guide you like a beacon in the distance. Sometimes lights can come behind an object, fill the room with a moving shadow, like a spinning fan, dripping with horror vibes. So I love the vibe of this game, but how about the gameplay? When I hear the game's a Souls-like, I always think which one, and for me this game felt most similar to Dark Souls 1. It has the similar jank, for lack of a better word. Hellpoint plays just like Dark Souls 1. It's stamina-based combat with light and heavy attacks, dodging and blocking. To perform any action it will use up your stamina. Once depleted you won't be able to perform any actions till it recharges. You don't have to wait till it's fully recharged to use. It's a good system that really makes you pay attention during combat. If you just spam attacks you're going to be left open to take damage, or you're not going to be able to dodge out of the way. There is an energy meter as well, which is used for range or special attacks and ammo for guns. This is recharged by landing a melee attack on an enemy. It's a nice system as it means you'll have to get in close and personal at least for a little bit. You also don't have to spend time grinding for ammo if you run out like in Bloodborne. The game gives you a shield early on, so I thought it was going to be a more defensive focused game. You can equip items to both your hands. Eventually I swapped out the shield for a gun, and I never went back. The gun can be really helpful at taking off enemies' health from a distance, but it was never too powerful to take out larger enemies outright, at least for how I built my character. Weapons include daggers, swords, big swords, and DLC two-handers. The neat part is, the more you use a weapon, the more benefits you unlock. Kill enemies to fill up a mastery bar, and you'll gain new moves, buffs, or firing modes. My gun went from a single shot to explosive rounds. Awesome system. It encourages experimenting instead of just chasing higher numbers. Healing is similar to Dark Souls but has a tweak to it. You have a limited number of heals, you have to press down to start healing. These don't recharge when you rest at a bonfire like in Dark Souls. You have to land hits on enemies for your healing to recharge. I'm a big fan of this system. It still has the fun risk and reward system like in Dark Souls, but even more so here. When you run out of healing in Dark Souls, you're like, shit, I need to get back to a bonfire, I might have to backtrack to do so. In Hellpoint, you're encouraged to play aggressively to get your healing back. If you're only a few hits off a recharge, why not risk it against one enemy? I do like it, it's a nice change. You only have to backtrack if you think you can't take on the enemies. When you kill enemies, you collect points. These points can be used to level up your character. When you die, you drop all of your points and have to make your way back to them without dying to reclaim them. Your usual FromSoft stuff. It is as good here as it is in every Souls-like. It's still a great system. In Hellpoint there is an added layer where a ghost of you can spawn near your points. The ghost will have the same weapons and equipment you had when you died. You can defeat the ghost for a free recharge of healing. I like this small change too. If you made it to the place you died, you can probably do it again. But can you do with enough health to spare to fight your ghost? It's a shame then your ghost is very suicidal. If you were near edge, they will more likely jump off it. The exploration is very similar in feeling to Dark Souls 1. The best part of that game for me was how the world was interconnected. The lack of fast travel points and bonfires made you learn the layout well. This is the same for Hellpoint. Each area has a limited amount of bonfires, but each area has a lot of shortcuts that go back to the bonfire. Areas loop back on each other. It's super well done. So many times I found a shortcut and end up in a completely new area. Like this one part I was heading for this tram, but I noticed I could go left, so I did. This led me on a 4-hour diversion. By the time I got back to the tram, I almost forgot about it. The game has its own type of disappearing walls. You have to go to a wall and press A to interact with it. It's a lot easier to find these walls than in Dark Souls. It's always the same type of wall. It will always be in between two hand messages, at least it was for me. Once you find one of these walls, you will see them everywhere. There are so many of these walls in a given area. This can be a small room with an item in them, a shortcut, or a completely new area. The level's a lot more vertical than Dark Souls, largely because you can jump, so it's important to explore everywhere. You will have to do a little bit of platforming, a lot if you want to find secrets. The platforming took some getting used to for me. I would often overshoot my targets if I sprinted and jumped. Honestly, you're better off walking then jumping in my opinion. The station size feels massive whilst you were playing, even though there are only a few areas. Pair this with the labyrinthian design and this game can both be rewarding and disorientating to explore. If you love the world design of Dark Souls 1 but got disappointed with the sequels because they're reliant on fast travelling, Hellpoint might scratch that itch you have been missing. I say this like there is no fast travelling here. There is, but it's done in a more interesting way to most Souls-like. You can fast travel from bonfires, but only if you use a resource to make it warpable. There are a limited number of these resources, so you really have to decide where to use these. If you have seen my other videos, you know I don't like using resources. I normally end up not using them because I want to save them for later. Same thing happened here basically. Didn't use any fast travelling to the DLC areas. But I think this added to my enjoyment of the game. I learnt the layout of the station where shortcuts were, and it felt great and immersive for me. The game is built around not fast travelling and it worked wonders for me. There is a nice variety of enemies on the station, from zombie-like humanoids, robot priests, tentacles, fat boys, and alien creatures. Different enemy types vary in attack patterns, range, and behaviours. Some can be aggressive while others can be defensive. The priest enemies absolutely did my head in. They have a ranged attack that can poison you, but are also deadly up close. And of course they never travel alone because that would be too easy. Fuck these guys. Did you know they are actually bosses in an earlier area? Now they're just regular enemies. Great, I love that. Actually that happens a lot in this game. I would say like 80% of the bosses get reused as regular enemies later on, which I'm not a huge fan of. Sure, it can show how strong you've become, but also I'd rather see a new enemy, you know. Enemies have cool designs, some look robotic, others look demonic. It is also very easy to tell them apart, which is always a plus in these type of games. Also, when you go back to older areas later in the game, new enemies will spawn, which is a nice surprise. The regular zombie enemies were replaced by big hands. I think this might have something to do with what bosses you kill first. Because I killed the one boss, I didn't see many zombie types after that, but a lot of hands. The hands are the minions of the monkey boss, so I think he was sending them after me because I beat the zombie boss, but I'm not too sure about this. Bosses were really good in Hellpoint. The big bosses look cool, my favourite being the monkey boss called the Master of Puppets. Looking at it now, it's clearly not a monkey, maybe because of the way it moves. It's got multiple arms and can send little hands out to chase you down. Very gnarly. Another one looks like a bloody Victorian queen with tentacles coming out of her back, which is sick looking. The bosses fit the atmosphere well, they all look a bit horrifying in their own ways, even the areas look horror-y. Some areas focus on blood whilst others are focused on flames. The bosses themselves feel fair to fight with clear attacks and avoidable moves. They can be quite difficult to fight, especially early on. Speaking of difficulty, for me, the game started off hard and got easier and easier as the game went on. Maybe I over-leveled or I was in the wrong areas for my level, but yeah, that's how it felt to me. Like those priests I mentioned earlier kicked my ass, but that might have been because I found a place quite early on into my playthrough. I managed to beat a lot of later bosses on my first try, whilst earlier bosses took a lot of tries to beat. I feel like this is because of how much healing I had later on. In the beginning you only have 2 charges of healing, but by the end of the game I had 5. If I only had 2 healings for the later bosses, I'm sure they would have kicked my ass, so I don't really know how to comment on the difficulty, other than tell you how it felt for me. If I didn't manage to find any extra healing, I imagine this game would have been super solid. It could have been even easier if I played in co-op, but I didn't. You can play the whole game in co-op if you have friends, unlike me. There's also a PvP similar to Dark Souls, but I did not encounter this in my playthrough. I don't think many people are playing this game at the moment. Players can also leave messages for each other like in Dark Souls. This is how I found most of the hidden walls. You can't use any words, there's only symbols, but it's still enough to get the message across. Turns out I also have the DLC installed, which explains a lot looking back at it. It's called Blue Sun. It adds 3 new areas with its own enemies, bosses and equipment. It's integrated into the game well. At your base, a guy will appear and ask you if you want to get stronger. You say yes and he gives you an item that you can use on your base's bonfire to travel to a similar universe. It's the same as the main game, but the black hole is blue now instead of red. In this universe you can find 3 new areas. A little complaint I have about this setup is, why not just add these areas to the main universe? Nothing really changes when you go to the new universe, just 3 new doors. This might just be to stop you accessing them early. There also isn't any hint where the new areas are. You are better up just looking up how to get to them, or you can just spend a lot of time backtracking through areas looking for these places. These new areas are pretty good for the most part. They're very different from the main game. There is a prison that looks more like a storage facility that turns into a bloody Victorian manor, which is my favourite of the new areas. The second is a bathhouse with tunnels underneath it. It has special forces type fighting zombies inside, which was cool. The last area is the core of the station. It's very dark in here. It has enemies that look like bonfires, which will no doubt mess with you the first time you see them. It's a really good DLC. It's more Hellpoint. Definitely get it if you like the main game. The new areas are not too big, but are pretty dense. I've been fairly positive on this game. I did really enjoy it, but it's not perfect. Most of the issues stem from the fact that this isn't a big budget game. Combat animations can feel a bit stiff, enemy types and environments can be repeated too often, and the AI can be pretty stupid sometimes. A few enemies got stuck in walls or jumped off ledges to their death. I had to reload at one point when I was following an NPC because he got stuck on the environment, and the achievement pop-in blocks the subtitles, which was very annoying. But for me, the positives vastly outweigh the negatives. I managed to beat the side quests without any guide, which is nice compared to Dark Souls. The setting and atmosphere are top notch. There is a good variety of weapons and equipment. I like the changes they made to the Souls formula, and the boss fights were memorable for the most part. Ultimately, I had a great time with Hellpoint. It really scratched that Dark Souls 1 itch for me. If you're looking for a Souls-like to play, absolutely give this a go. It's a good level of challenge and very rewarding to play. Time to rank it! Honestly, I'm feeling number 13. Whilst I enjoyed Onimusha, which also had great combat, I think the exploration of Hellpoint is what's pushing it above that for me. But I can't put it above System Shock. That had a good story, combat, atmosphere, which just puts it above Hellpoint for me. So yeah, new number 13. Hopefully it's not a sin for it to be that high.